Thank you, everybody, for joining us today at our first Board of Visitors Dialogue Mentorship Series, Navigating the Social Work Industry in Detroit. My name is Andre. I'm the program coordinator for the Social Work Student Alliance, and I'm super pleased and honored to have with us Miss Alice Thompson and Miss Shirley Gray, two members of our Board of Visitors and Wayne State MSW alumni. I'm going to give a very brief intro. These two social workers have extremely long, impressive resumes. It was hard to narrow it down to a couple sentences, but I'm just going to go ahead and do my best. And then they are going to share some insight with us about networking, growing as a social worker, and how to, out of school, hopefully reach and have the careers that they have had. So thank you again, Ms. Thompson and Ms. Gray, for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started with some very brief introductions. Alice Thompson is, like I said, a Wayne State MSW alumni. She is also an outstanding contributor to the founding of Black Family Development. She currently serves as the CEO of BFDI Educational Services, and she is a licensed restorative practice trainer by the International Institute of Restorative Practices. How cool. Ms. Thompson is a speaker and trainer on such topics as juvenile justice, child welfare, and overrepresentation. With us is also Shirley Gray, who is an expert on child welfare, health, among many other topics. She is previously a director of the Children's Hospital of Michigan Premier Network Children with Special Needs Program at the Detroit Medical Center. She is currently the director of Maternal Child Health at the City of Detroit Health Department. And she also holds a certificate of aging from the University of Michigan Institute of Gerontology. Both these ladies are published authors, various mediums, speakers, are experts in their respective fields, and are just overall super accomplished social workers out here as Black women representing social work for many, many years. So thank you, Ms. Thompson and Ms. Shirley Gray, for joining us. We got more and more folks coming in. So say hi, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. I am so honored to be here with you. Well, I won't be before you long. For the brief time I do have, hopefully my sharing will inspire you, will motivate you, and encourage you to dig deeper into why you chose to be a social worker, why you want to be instrument of change, and think deeper about your intentionality of making a difference. So where I worked at BFDI for many years, almost, quite frankly, 26 years, I would always ask the staff this every day. Ask yourself every day, did I make a difference in the lives of those whom I serve? So our job is to make a difference. So do know this, you're at every table. Social workers at every single table. You're at all arenas, you're in all systems, all institutions. You're helping to transform the landscape in many, many areas. You have remained committed to social economic justice, particularly on behalf of vulnerable and oppressed people. So there is no segment, no element, no territory, no arena, institution that does not embrace, employ, or need the help, wisdom, and guidance of social workers in their practice, even more today. So today's social worker, as you well know, requires collaboration with colleagues, affinity groups and systems, institutions, consumers, policymakers, and the general community. So as social workers, we are competent and committed to be change agent, and that's who we are. And so as we talk about our assignment today, the assignment today with you is talking about how to navigate the social work industry in Detroit. Well, it's easy. It's about being engaged and being involved and staying true to your profession. So fundamental to our work is this. We're helping society work better for people in helping people function better in society. That's our goal. So I'm going to go to my PowerPoint, if you don't mind. I'm going to share a few things that I think will be helpful in a visual presentation. Oh, excuse me, my camera is messing up again. But at least I can see what we have. All right. I'm gonna get it back working, but you can hear my voice, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So we'll go to the PowerPoints just to make a few points I want to share with you on the PowerPoints. And so the first one I'm going to share is, if you want to know how to navigate in Detroit's industry, I'm going to say you first have to go to the next slide, please. You've got to know your city and know who is who. You cannot remain in your office and be a social worker. You must be out and be engaged. So you've got to know who the mayor is, who council folks are, right? Who are the who's who? Who's running agencies in the city, right? Do some research. So know your city. We were formed in 1701. We're about 143 square miles. That's basic things about Detroit, right? Know your city. The next thing is, it's about networking, collaboration, advocacy. Now, here's a real good tip for you. The work that I do in the community began in the School of Social Work. I was very involved in all the organizations, student org, NABSW student chapter. If there was a place to put my hands was in that place. So you just don't graduate and then become a great networker. It begins in the university. My connection to social work in the university. And so as we look at celebrating those who are legends in our school, Alice Lamont as an example. Alice Lamont was my professor, but because I was so involved in the School of Social Work and I was so active in everything, when Alice had to go on a sabbatical, they called me to cover a class. And I said, me? Cover a class for Alice? So I did. And so I became an adjunct professor at Wayne State for about 10 years, but it's because I put my hands to work in the university. So collaboration is critically important, advocacy. So I advocate in a lot of areas. So if you want to know how to navigate in this city, you've got to be involved in what's going on in the city. So it's about preparation, it's about purpose, and it's about power. So what I did for you is this. When I graduated back in 1980, I did a SWOT analysis in my mind. So go to the next slide, please, Andrew. Okay, this is what it was like for me at graduation. I was able to identify what were my strengths as a social worker in school and my weaknesses and opportunities. So these opened doors for me, which meant that this is a true story. I have never looked for a job. Every job I had, someone called me to come and apply for the position. That's because I had set a foundation for myself. So my strengths were relationships with people, with peer group and faculty, and being very involved. I was providing leadership across the campus. If you say lead something, Alice Thompson said yes. And there was also a weakness, I didn't know how to say no, right? I majored in administration. I volunteered throughout the campus. And so I worked with administrators. And so I was a good writer. And so these things that were going on that were really powerful, right, in the school. Hey, Jennifer, good to see you, were really important. Now, opportunities, I was well connected because when I was in the school, I was president of the chapter of NABSW. So I knew the local leadership who ran agencies because I was leading. So that was opportunity. I had administrative skills and I was very active, and my family was active in the labor union, which meant that when I graduated, doors opened for me, right? So do a SWOT analysis on yourself when you're graduating. You've got to be involved, very involved in the process. Join organizations that are on campus. I was very involved at ABSW and the student organization. So get involved where you can and put your hands to work. Now, my weakness was this, and still remains. I was not very good at self-care. So don't model that. Take care of yourself. The other thing that was challenging too is that I had difficulty saying no. If anyone say, Alice, will you? I would say yes. I kind of still do that. So I haven't solved these two weaknesses. I carry them with me over the last 40 years. And here's what my threats. Transportation. I did not have a reliable car. So trying to get to a job that was far out was difficult. So my first job was Boysville of Michigan. I had to drive 30 some miles. Well, my car wasn't very stable, so that was a real threat for me. The second thing was I had a daughter who was very ill, who needed care. And so she unfortunately did pass, but she was very ill. So that was a challenge for me. But she also had a daughter that was 2 years old, that is now 30 some years old, right? But I had to raise my grandchild. So that was a real threat for me in terms of my job and trying to move about, because my job moved about. But I was blessed that as I moved about, I taught this 2-year-old child how to take her backpack and sit in the corner and draw, right? So these all things happened to me that made me ready for a good job as an administrator, but also I had some challenges. Go to the next one, please. All right, now, here's what you have to know as a social worker. You've got to know what's happening currently in the environment. What are things that are being talked about? And so you've got to say, can I have conversations about these things, right? So COVID-19 and the pandemic, you've got to study that and how it's impacting people. Vaccine hesitation, you got to know about that because you have consumers. Restorative practice, which I love, restorative justice, these are things being talked about. So find out things, whether you major in these areas or not, because the more you know about current events and issues, the more you get invited to the table, right, that open doors for you. Critical race theory being talked about across the country now. Know what that is and what it's not. That's critical. Diversity, equity, inclusion. What is that? Know about that. And you probably do. But these things are being talked about at the tables right now across the city, the state, and nation. Build back better. Now, if you haven't heard that, that's President Biden's agenda. We're social. You gotta know about that as social worker. Trauma-informed care, adverse child experience. You gotta know about that. Now, here's one that we're talking about across the country: equality versus equity. Show the illustration. The next slide, please. Now, you've probably seen this great illustration. People sometimes cannot define what is between equality and equity. So here's the illustration. Inequality, it's about everything being even. So in this one box, everyone has a box the same size. Everything is even across the board, but it's not fair. It's not equitable. So equity means that you have to make allowances to make sure that everyone has opportunity. So it means that one child needs no box, one needs one, and one needs two. So think about equity funding. We're pushing that in the state of Michigan. In some schools, we're saying you have to give more to some schools because their needs are greater. So when you're challenged to try and define what it is, here's a great picture. Equal doesn't always mean fair, but equity means fair. And so this is being talked about at the national level, state and local level. Next slide, please. So know these issues, right? Now, I'm gonna close out and let my colleague come, and then I'll come back on as well. Now, I'm gonna say this to you in terms of the field. We all from time to time need to have a mentor or a coach. I have been a mentor for many people, and I have had mentees for me. So when I got out of Wayne State University graduating, I approached a gentleman who has since, passed. And I said to him, would you be my mentor? And he said, mentor? I said, yes, sir. He said, oh, I'm not sure if I could even do that. So that was it. But I watched him over the years, right? And I watched how he did things, and I really mimicked him a lot. He was a great, great leader, right? And so I appreciated that. And so again, think about having a mentor or a coach. Even as an executive, you can use a coach, right? It's important. So mentoring is the personal and professional development of an individual, the mentee, enabled by a senior, if not senior, skilled or experienced person. I still am a person's mentor. I have a mentee that we talk every single Saturday. She has her almost PhD in psychology, but I still mentor her, right? And so a mentor is one who encourages, gives you feedback, mutual respect, and it's a team player, right? Mentoring is about your future development. So Shirley has been out here a long time, like I have. I learn things from Shirley all the time. I learn things from her, right? It's about sharing, understanding experiences. So make sure as you prepare to go into the field, and especially in Detroit, that you think about touching someone that may be your mentor or may be your coach, even periodically, right? Next slide, please. Okay, what does a mentor do? Here's some things, right? And so, yes, thank you, Wendy. They communicate, they coach, they advise, they broker, they advocate, they share, they assist with challenges, they encourage, they guide, and they open doors of opportunity for you, right? That's critical, right? Because it's not always what you know, it's also who you know in the process, right? And so do I have one more? All right, now you hold off on that one. Go back to the last one then. All right, so that's my saving piece, right? And so as Shirley comes on, do know this. Again, we're at every single table there is to be at. We are needed throughout this country, right? We're in Lansing, we're running organizations. And someone asked, about salaries. And so I'll just give a little piece about that and then move on to Shirley, get some comments. In organizations, usually in nonprofits, the board of directors approves a salary scale. So you may go in for a position, but they can only work within that scale that's been approved by the board. So let's say you're a social worker with a master's degree and the range is $70,000 to $80,000, hypothetically. Maybe it's not going to be that high, but I'm just saying we can dream, right? And so you may want $80,000. But it says that to get 80, you must be experienced, right? So yes, you can negotiate, but within reason. And what I want you to do is this, your resume makes a difference. So what I gave to Andrea was a brief synopsis of my 10-page resume, which is too long, but it gives all of my 50-year history of trainings and workshops and speeches and graduation pieces. But what's important is that in the very beginning, I mentioned my skill set. So take time to identify all of your skills that you have, and you probably have many that you haven't thought about, right? And list those skill sets, because listing those skill sets then helps the employer think about how much value you can bring to the agency that would cause you to get more money. So I'm going to pause right now. We'll come back. And so I'll go to my esteemed colleague, Shirley Gray. And we'll hold off on that slide to the very end of the thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, Alice. And thank you for allowing me to come share my experience with you. Alice, thank you so much for setting the groundwork. And I think Alice have went through all of the points in terms of things that you need to know at a very high level. So thank you again, Alice. I'm going to approach this from a different perspective. From a personal perspective, using Alice backdrop to sort of help you to connect the dots. And I hope some of what I say here tonight resonate with you based on who I am, who I was, and where I am going. And I'll start by saying, unlike Alice, Alice came into the space of graduate school or becoming a social worker as a mature, probably more stable person than me. I came in from a young person's perspective, a young 20-something right out of undergraduate school from another state. And I want to do this comparison so you can see yourself and understand there's not one size that fits all, that we come and we all have different paths. We have different journeys, but what is important is that you sort of set your eye on where you want to go and you make sure that you get there. So my experience, again, was a sharecropper's daughter from rural Tennessee who went to Tennessee State University, which is at that point, it was a Black university. And I arrived here at Wayne State University on a scholarship, which also painted another picture into my journey. I was blessed enough not to have any loans to go to grad school. I'm sure from what we're hearing at some point that is a little unheard of now, which also impact the type of job that you feel you need, or not so much the type of job you need, but the amount of money that you need in order to be able to live. So think again, this is a very different era, and this is my journey. So I arrived in the big city of Detroit, big cold Detroit, not knowing anyone but an uncle. I had no connections, unlike Alice. Unlike Alice, I wasn't smart enough or mature enough to even do a SWOT analysis at that point. Remember, a 20-something versus a person that is already mature and perhaps have some responsibilities. And I came with absolutely no responsibilities other than myself. So I want to paint that picture to say, and when you look at us now, you can say, wow, you know, both of them have made it. They have accomplished their goals. They are doing well. And they are now sitting back talking to us to say, how can we bring you along? That is my responsibility. That is Alice's responsibility. We owe that to you because somebody did that for us. So when Alice talked about mentors and when she talked about reaching out, this may not be someone that have a powerful job. This may be somebody in your church. This may be somebody in your family. So you began to think about what brought you to this spot. And I had to ask myself when I arrived here, what brought me to the School of Social Work? And then the next question says, what impact am I having? Not just in terms of you and your family, but what impact are you having on your community? What impact are you having on the families that you are serving, perhaps in your internship? What impact are you having on your children or your siblings? And when you begin to think about it that way, to say, who am I? And as Alice talked about, always talked about going out and make a difference. I served 30-some years as an administrator in Children's Hospital. And I had a president of Children's Hospital that every time he brought us together, no matter what the situation was, he always closed the meeting by saying, go out and make a difference. So when you wake up every morning, you have to ask yourself, what difference am I making today? What difference will I make tomorrow? And why am I in this space? And given COVID, and given the struggles that we all have had, perhaps we have had some setbacks, but we still move forward. Now let's talk a little bit about, everybody want a job. And I always talk to my staff in terms of saying to me, I have this job and I'm making $30,000 a year, and there is no opportunity for promotion. I heard that so many times when I was a young social worker at Children's Hospital. And then when I became the director of social work at Children's Hospital, and all of my colleagues used to say to me, why do you stay here as a social worker? Because there is not a supervisor's position. There is not a management position. You would never go far in the hospital. Well, let me tell you how you think about that. You think about it in terms of going far or moving up, not so much in terms of saying, I'm a clinical social worker right now. Tomorrow I'm going to be a supervisor, and the next day I'm going to be a director. That may happen. If that happened to you, hey, so well and good. But don't wait for that. Because what you're doing while you're being that clinical social worker, you are still building skills. As Alice said, you are observing, you understand the community, you are sitting on boards, you got a seat at the table, okay? So you say, well, how do I get at the seat at the table? I want to be in corporate America. Well, think about when you was a child and there was a big family dinner, you probably was at the little table. And you were sitting at the little table because that's where the kids started out. And eventually you got to the big table. Well, think about it as the way you do your career. You're going to start out at a little table. That's okay, but be the best you can be at that little table. Make a difference no matter what it is that you're doing. You're at the little table today, but you're going to be the best you can be, because that's going to take you to the middle level table, to the next level table, and so forth. So as you're thinking about being just a clinical social worker, then think about I can't become a supervisor because there's no position, but you're beginning to learn about people. Then you're beginning to serve them very different. You begin to take on other responsibilities. You take on a student. You look for other resources. And eventually somebody will say, you know what? I remember I was doing so-and-so and Alice provided this service. I'm going to call Alice. Did you hear Alice say she have never applied for a job? She never looked for a job. That is phenomenal. Now, I have not been as blessed as Alice was to look for a job. I mean, not to have to apply for a job, but I can tell you, every job that I applied for, with the exception of one, I got it. Now, that may not be your journey, but don't give up. Know every time you apply for a job, you're learning, you're continuing to learn. Every time that you go for an interview, even if you don't get that job, you should come back even richer, smarter, with a different skill set than when you went in there. Because at least you're saying, well, this is what the industry is about. These are the hot topics or the hot issues that Alice talked about. So when I go to talk about that next job, I'm going to talk about equity and inclusion. I'm going to talk about, social justice and the environment, right? So take every opportunity that you touch base with someone as an opportunity to learn and grow. You never know where that next opportunity will take you. I have said to many people that have interviewed, and perhaps you get in the middle of an interview and all of a sudden you say, you know what, this is not really what I thought. I really don't want this job. You need to continue to have that interview. It's like that is the best job that you will ever have, and you want this job. Well, why? Because you don't know who I know as I interview you. You would be amazed how many times we or I have interviewed someone for a particular job with me and felt that they were great, but it was not the skill set, it was not the time that I needed. So 2 or 3 weeks later, I get a call from an Alice or a Jennifer or somebody to say, Shirley, I'm looking for a person to do X, Y, Z. And I say, you know what? Wendy is that person. Wendy interviewed with me a month ago, and let me tell you about Wendy. And the reason I didn't hire Wendy was because ABC. She is really good, go for it. You never know where your next opportunity will come from. As Alice said, when you see people come engaged, make a connection, whether they seem like they're little people or small people, got a big job or a little job, because that may be your next opportunity. And even if it's not your next opportunity for a job, it's your opportunity to grow. We all develop our own path. We all have our different journeys. And sometimes our road get crooked. Sometimes it get narrow. Sometimes we come to the fork in the road and we really don't know which way to go. So again, that's when you reach back to those mentors, to that knowledge, to people like Alice, and say, I need to call a lifeline. And you always should have somebody that you can pick up the phone, well, not really pick up the phone now, that you can text at any point and say, hello, I need a lifeline. I remember as a young social worker, similar to what I'm doing now at the health department program-wise, we were interviewing women that were pregnant and matching them with a coach that was going to provide supportive services to them. And I always asked them one question. At 2 o'clock in the morning, when you needed help or just needed to talk to somebody, who would you call? And it was amazing how many times I heard a cricket, right? Now, remember, this was in the 70s. I would say to you now, Alice and Wendy and Jennifer, at 2 o'clock in the morning, who would you text, right? But keep in mind, the point is, there should always be someone at your fingertip, because we all need support. We all need encouragement, and we all need to be lifted up time after time. So me, as a young social worker is, my daughter said, had no responsibilities, nor chick nor child, came to big city Detroit, no connection other than Bill Iverson and Bill Picard, who recruited me from Tennessee State. And when Bill Picard came to recruit me, I said to him, I'm a young BSW prepared social worker in Nashville. I really don't need no MSW. So Bill, I don't want your money. Go back to the big city. Well, little did I learn that my BSW was not taking me where I want to go. So I had to reach out to Bill Picard later and say, Bill, can you still give me that money if I can come? And Bill Picard said, yes. I arrived here broke, walked into Bill Iverson, who was over at Mission at that point, had not been accepted, and walked in with a big, huge afro in the 70s, humbled myself and said, I'm here, I rejected Wayne, and now I hope Wayne don't reject me because I need Wayne. And Bill Iverson said, you are admitted to the School of Social Work, and classes had already started. Now that was a blessing in itself, but it also means that I was connected to someone that wanted me at the point, and I didn't know them at all. Now they wanted me because they needed Black students at that time. Well, who cares why Wayne needed me? I needed them. They had money. I came, and here I am. So you never know when your opportunity will come. You never know when the door is open. And we all say, whatever door open, enter it. Whatever avenue open, enter it. And then carve out your plan once you get there. But do not reject any opportunities or anybody that is reaching out to you. So on that note, I will stop and give you guys time to respond or ask any questions. I hope I have been helpful in this space. And you know, it's always difficult following Miss Alice Thompson, who is my esteemed colleague, that as she said, I have learned so much and have admired her so much. And I see Miss Jennifer Poole. We all go way back, and I won't say how far back, but keep in mind that we are here for you as someone was here for us, and we are paying it forward.
Thank you so much, Shirley. We're going to answer some questions, but let me add this too. If you are in the school, and many of you may be out of the school, but if you're in the school, make sure that you're very active in the school. Find a way to be active, to participate, to put your hands to work. Now, I'm not sure if you still have them, but we had very active student organization when I was there. We would have meetings once a week. They made time for us to meet for about an hour. The student group did. And we would do fundraisers, we would have dinners, we would do things for people in the community around Christmas and Thanksgiving. So find a way to do that. And you can do this as students. You can adopt an agency and say, we would like to perhaps buy mittens or socks for kids, maybe 10 or 20. And we used to have universities do that. They come to Black family and they want to adopt our students, our families. And so we would do that, allow them to do just that. And so get involved in whatever is on campus. I was involved with ABSW. I was the president. And so that was a big connector for me because we had a very active local chapter and the members ran organizations. So it was an open door for me, right? Because they saw me being active, right? So put your hands to work. Find ways to let your name be known by being very engaged, because I use this phrase often. You will not have to chase a job. A job will chase you if you make your gifts and talents known and conspicuous. So I'll pause on that. Now, Jennifer had a question here, Shirley. You see her question? How can we use social work networking to enhance nonprofit agencies to further programs that will improve lives of Black families? Well, I would say one of the things that's important is this. I think agencies are looking to have students placed in their agencies. And I mean placed in their agencies big time. And that also becomes your market for your job. I mean, in your field placement, if you do well, they will hire you. You need not try and apply, they will hire you for that, right? So one way is by having students in that field placement and the agencies. The other way is this, reach out to agencies and asked to network with them. How can we help you perhaps around Christmas or Thanksgiving? And that's a networking piece as well. So those things have worked for me very well in my almost 45 or 50 years of doing this work. I will tell my age, right? Shirley, your experience.
I agree, Alice. And my first 2 jobs was through my field placement. What I would encourage you is not, as you are looking at agencies, and as you look at the agencies that are out there, when you're making your choice, make your choice based on the things of interest, where you want to go in your career. Don't just pick an agency because of the time, because it's close to the house, because your friend went there. Really take a look at that and consider, as you begin to look at this agency or this field placement, is this somewhere I would want to work? Is this the type of work that I want to do? And then when you get there, as Alice said, you are not just putting in the number of hours that is required in order to get your MSW. You are putting in the work that is required to meet the needs of the population that you're servicing. Now, I'll caution you, that doesn't mean to go there and get used, because we find sometimes that agencies will have a reduction in staff and they will take interns to backfill staff positions. So you should not be treated as if you're staff, but you should work as if you are looking for that space in terms of getting those particular jobs. We love the idea of training staff before they become staff. So as Alice said, agencies are looking for good, committed, compassionate interns. So begin to think about that as you're making those choices. And I think one of the issues now that you're probably going to find, and also due to COVID, that a lot of the agencies are also struggling in terms of, number one, are we face-to-face? Can we pivot to give you the experience that you need? Secondly, do we have staff there to even train you? And even though that seems really hard, and it's difficult for you, but it's probably in your best interest that you don't end up somewhere just to be there, where you really are not getting the education and the training that you deserve.
Well,
Go ahead.
I hope everybody was taking a couple notes as I was, because there's a lot of good stuff here, folks. Thank you both very much for sharing, and want to highlight some things in the chat. Besides all of the wonderful thank yous, we have our current ABSW leadership is in attendance. Hi, Ayana and Damon. And we have, quite a few staff members from the School of Social Work saying that, they were hired from their field agency. I myself was hired from my field agency, and my current, position at the School of Social Work was a direct byproduct of me being the president of the student organization. So I just want to 2 seconds have a plug for our Social Work Student Alliance. All of our students on this call are invited to participate in student activities, just as our panelists are encouraging. So if you're interested in getting more involved, definitely send me an email and let's connect and get your hands dirty, as Miss Shirley and Miss Alice have so emphasized. We have about 20 minutes. I know Miss Gray might have to jump off in a second. So I would encourage everybody to come off mute or ask in the chat. You have 2 brilliant minds here. What do you want to know? And like I said, we do have our Social Work Student Alliance meetings. We'll not be having one for Thanksgiving break, but we'll pick back up the following Tuesday in December. Definitely have some time to debrief and pick apart some more tools and tricks. So this is just the beginning of the conversation, but we have some time for questions and answers. Folks, does anybody have a question they'd like to ask? Feel free to drop it in the chat or come off mute. Always love to hear your beautiful voices.
While we're waiting, I'm going to add one more thing to think about too, that we don't think about as social workers. We can be more engaged in the philanthropic community. Think about the Skillman Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, Kellogg Foundation, Casey, the Ford Foundation. These are billion-dollar organizations, but they have mission statements, and many of them are aligned with social work values. So within these places, you have, I'll take Tanya Allen, who was at Skillman Foundation. She was an MSW social worker, right? And so do know that we have a space and place at every single table. Don't just think nonprofit, right? Although I love nonprofit, right? But you can be in any space there is you want to be in as a social worker, right? So I want you to do some research, right? And ask yourself, what am I passionate about? What do I really want to do? And then begin to really, not just by chance, look for a job, but be very intentional about what gives you joy, what gives you peace, and find a way to put yourself in that space, right? And so I use Tanya Allen because she's a social worker. Before her, it was a social worker. So social workers are running some huge organizations. I mean, some big money organizations, some deep pocket organizations, right? So don't think that we're just in the poverty category, right? We are everywhere. And in terms of salaries, let me say this. I will be very humble. But when I retired, I was making some real deep pocket money, right? But that was after 50 years of working. Let me just say that, right? That was a long time working. So we really can.
Alice, I hate to interrupt you, but thank you for saying that. This is Jennifer. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Go right ahead. Speak on, Jennifer. We lost your volume.
It takes years of experience and your dedication, because what we do is what we want to do for our families and the community. It's not really about the money. Exactly. We want to make sure that we're able to take care of ourselves, and self-care, which we've learned later that's important. But we really want to take care of those that we love and our community and our Black families. That is our importance there. So we don't even look at money. We look at the service that we can provide. At least back in 1967, that's what I did.
Well, Jennifer is correct, because let me use back at the same time with me, when I went to look for a job at Boysville, Michigan, I didn't ask what the salary was at all. It wasn't until I got there and I was a manager and I had some staff working up under me. I said, wait a minute, I can make more than $30,000, Ken. I'm a manager, right? But I went into it not looking for the money, right? Not looking for it. Now, Jennifer, it has changed in 2021. Yep. The things that used to motivate us, it's real different right now. And so we would get on a job and stay for years, right? And so I've had a lot of jobs, right? But the market is very different now. And so I know we have lost that, because now staff come in, they really do come in negotiating salaries. But as a manager, I didn't even ask about the salary. Now, once I got there, I did after a while. I said, wait a minute, I can make more than 30. I'm a massive level person running a big agency, right? But you are correct that years ago, social work was nothing about money. It was about doing the work and saving the world. And of course, I'm not saying it's not like that now, but it has changed a bit because the environment has caused that change to take place, right? And so thank you for sharing that, because I am with you now. It's about service, about making a difference and showing care and concern for people and those in our community. So thank you, sister, for that. Other comments and suggestions? I loved it.
Let me just say, Alice, and I love what you and Jennifer are saying. In our days, it was go to the agency or enter into that space and work your way up. That is no more. My entire MSW professional life, I've had worked for 2 institutions. That is unheard of in terms of you guys' life and space. And that's okay, as long as you have your own path and your own directions, and you're committed to yourself, and you're not committed to chasing the dollar. What I will say to you, you have to be true to yourself and your values as opposed to true to the dollar. And the dollar is important, but you have to really be happy as to the information that you're giving and the services that you're providing. I have a young daughter that was at the University of Chicago in the School of Social Work, and she called me. And when she graduated, she got offered 2 jobs, one making $50,000 and the other one making $21,000, making home visits on the south side of Chicago. Now, as her mother and my lenses at that point, I said to her, honey, I know you're taking that $50,000 job in a hospital, you know, that don't have to make home visits. And you know what she said to me? She said, Mama, if I am going to do what's in my heart, the work that I want to do ever in my life, I'm going to do it now. She said, I'm young, I have no responsibilities, and I'm going to do what I need to do to take care of this population in terms of working with young pregnant women on the south side of Chicago. And she said, it also prepares me to take my exam. I need this clinical experience and I need this learning. So my point is, as you are choosing whatever job, whatever you're going to do, think about what is it that you want to do, what's in your heart, and what do you need to do right now, not 20 years from now. But what do you need to do right now, and how do I get to that point?
Yeah, thank
And
you.
I have to say, she took that $21,000 that $21,000 job, stayed there for 2 years, became a manager there, became a director there. Now she's director of equity and inclusion at the same institution that she started out with that same MSW degree.
I want to lift, if I may lift up, Betsy made a comment, a good comment about paying us fairly for our profession. So I will say this publicly. I think social workers and educators are both highly underpaid.
Absolutely.
Social workers and educators are highly underpaid. And so I have been talking about that for years, that we have to do better than that. So if I think about two major professions, teaching is one. You know, I use this phrase for years on my tagline. Someone said, Aristotle said it 2,000 years ago. And what he said was this: all who have meditated on the art of governing mankind realize that the fate of a nation depends upon the education of our youth. So if that is true, why do we underpay critical things like our staff, social workers, and educators? So Betsy, I agree with you. That is two of the most seriously underpaid professions, and they're the most important that we need to have. So thank you for that.
Alice, I'd like to interrupt. This is Barbara Nelson. How you doing, Alice?
Oh, Barbara Nelson, I'm gonna shout, girl.
Hello, Barbara Nelson.
Hello, shout out. It's just been fantastic listening to the two of you and seeing you. But just one little thing that I need, and I'm running into, and we need to emphasize, we're really missing a lot of integrity. We need the workers to understand, social workers is so crucial for them to have integrity when they do their job, that they understand that it is important to have integrity, give out correct information, and follow through, not just do, but because you're committed to do. And that's just the only thing I wanted to say. But both of y'all are beautiful. It's been a fantastic presentation and a good leadership for our new social workers coming up.
Thank you for that, Barbara. Listen, Barbara Nelson and Jennifer we go way back. So it's great to hear you. But let me follow up on Barbara's piece is this. In social work, when I was in school, I always remember the social work paradigm approach, what we were being taught: knowledge, skills, and values. That's our framework. And I have said for years that when I look to hire somebody, I want you to have knowledge and skills, but I look first at your value system, right?
Right.
So you're right, Barbara. The value systems mean a lot because you may have knowledge and skills, but they're also determined by what do you believe about people? What do you think about people that you serve, right? It makes a difference. So again, knowledge, skills, and values are our cornerstone, but I've always embraced the social work value component as a highest thing that we can walk into and support. So thank you for that as well. Other questions or comments? Great, it's a great group, yes.
Alice and Caroline.
Yes, ma'am.
Caroline Phillips, happy birthday.
Caroline.
This is a social work refresher for all of us. Even though you're saying this is for the new people, those of us who are still networking, we needed to hear this today. And
Thank you.
Shirley and Alice, this has been tremendous. And this is something that all social workers should hear, not just those new folks.
Okay.
If you're still working or you're still giving back, you have given us a reason to believe again.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Now, for those who are new in the field, you just heard from some social work giants, and I do mean that. Social work giants have spoken. Jennifer, Barbara, Carolyn, thank you so much.
It's almost like we just had an old school celebration here, you guys.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Yes, yes. And so for those who are on, who may not know these folks, it's about being engaged and about being connected and networking. So whatever space you're in, whatever it is, right? Find a way to be engaged. Find a way to network. Find a way to put your hands to work to do something. I mean, you can't just be in your office, right? And so the office is critical, right? But you got to find a way to use your social work values and knowledge to change the world that we're in. And we can do that as social workers. And I have that kind of faith and confidence in our skills and our abilities to do that.
And I can't say more
Pardon?
than, I can't emphasize more than what Alice had said earlier. Know your community. Be in touch with your community. Know the people that you are serving. And don't ever forget why you are here and what impact are you having.
And one more thing too, I serve on lots of boards, too many boards. But in every single board meeting I'm in, if I hear anything happening that is not aligned with our value system, I speak up and push back. I'm on DT Energy's board. That's the largest, utility company. And so a few years ago, we were talking about, cutting off people's electricity because they were poor. But we actually got them to change their policies based upon a few of us on that board who had social work values to begin to change how they operate. So never underestimate the power and influence you have by just opening your mouth and speaking your views and your opinions. You can change the direction of an organization by your very words and your values and your comments. Your voice has power and your voice matters.
Do we have about 5 minutes. Do we have one more question for
Me.
our panelists? Yeah, go ahead.
Elizabeth.
Go right ahead.
My name is Elizabeth. I'm new to the social work field. I've always wanted to get into social work, but this is my first semester. As you can see, I'm a senior and I'm going part-time. And I like to thank the host today. You've done a very good job for persons like myself. And I just thank you. So what advice would you have for me as a senior and just starting out?
Well, what I would say is this: you bring a lot of wisdom to the table. You bring lived experience to the table, and that's valuable, right? Yes. You bring wisdom and lived experience. So while you may be a senior like I am, in the classroom, you can add to the discussion great value that young folks don't have. You bring wisdom and power.
Okay.
Use it.
Thank you.
So you make sure you find your seat at the table and you occupy it at all times.
Thank you.
And congratulations for making a wise decision.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
and Elizabeth, certainly from one senior to the other, if I can be of help or a mentor to you, please reach out.
I'm reaching now.
Okay.
So do I need to leave my email or do you have one that's available?
Andrew, you can pass on our emails. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And also my my business phone number is fine too. I give to everybody 313-300-4428.
304.
4428. And that's my business cell. So feel free to use it.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Well, I just put mine in the chat too. I can't have my sister outdo me on this one. There's mine. No, listen, we are true social workers and we are givers. We are givers, we're givers. So you have my
see
number as
that.
well.
I see that.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Andrew, let me tell you this about me about time. If we don't need the 2 minutes, let's give it back to them. I believe in giving folks back time. If we don't need it, we don't need it. If it's been done, if all is said and done, all is well.
Well, I think the last thing to be said is I'm glad everybody's inspired. I hope that, you know, again, this was helpful, constructive. I personally am very inspired. And thank you to all of our students and alumni and everybody that's on the call. Definitely stay connected. This is just the beginning of a conversation. And I hope that there's tidbits and tools. Almost everything these ladies said was inspiring, but there was a lot of little good tidbits to pull out there. So we'll definitely, you know, be continuing these conversations. Thank you again, Alice and Shirley. Let's have like a round of applause, you know, get those celebration reacts and everything. I will send out PowerPoint. This will be recorded and posted on YouTube. We'll make sure to follow up with everybody. I'm going to go ahead and drop my email in the chat. If folks want to connect further in terms of student activities or just, you know, getting all the materials presented today, please send me an email. And we'll be picking up next week with even more great stuff. We'll be having 2 more sessions with our Board of Visitors, Dialogue Mentorship Series, even more wisdom to come. So from us at the Student Alliance and the Board of Visitors, thanks everybody for being here. How does 1 minute sound to give them back, Alice?
We'll take it.
We'll take it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great
Thank you
evening.
all and have a happy holiday. Thank you
Have
so
a
much.
happy holidays. Yes,
Everybody
everybody
be
be
safe.
safe.
Yes.
Thank you both again.
You're quite welcome. My joy.
And we'll be in touch for sure.
Right now.
Great job, Andre.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate all of your help. Yeah, appreciate all of your help. I have the video. We can discuss what to do. I think I owe everybody like 10,000 emails, but
I'm in the same boat.
yeah, right. My plan tomorrow is to let me stop recording.